So in a nutshell, I need your help again. I'm looking for the name of a particular role-playing game on PC going back a bit. And as usual, for this channel, I remember very, very vague details. I can't remember the title, that's what I'm looking for, but I'm figuring if I give you enough info from the bare bones of what I remember, hopefully you can solve this mystery for me and for YouTube itself. So let's give that a go. Hey again, YouTube. Al here from One Man Many Plans, and of course the blog of the same name over at onemanmanyplans.com.au. Welcome to the channel if you're new to it, and if you are, you may have missed last week's episode where we were talking about your very first role-playing game experience, not with pen and paper, not on a tabletop, but in terms of video games. Started off for me, 1994, Ultima 4. We did a big video exploring how good that game was and asking for your memories. And it was just such a fantastic throwback. If you haven't swung by, given the video a bit of a like and a look over, please do. I'd love you to swing by and let me know what game it was for you that started things off. Ultima 4 led to so many more role-playing game experiences, but it all had to start somewhere. And it was just one of those cartridges that I saw for sale in Toy World in Camberwell and just went, yeah, I'll give this adventure role-playing thing a go and we'll see how far we got. Still loving role-playing games to this point. So yeah, if you haven't commented, please let me know on that video. What was your very first video game-related RPG experience? And a massive thank you to everyone who did too. We had some great responses. I think one of the earlier games was from 1982. That was Ring of Darkness. Final Fantasy Tactics got a bit of love in the comments. Quest for Glory came up a couple of times. And then a couple of Sega Master System games that I wasn't even aware of. I just thought there was Ultima 4 and Wise, and that was it in terms of role-playing games. But a couple of people suggested Miracle Warrior, which I believe was a US-only release, and that seems pretty awesome. So I'm definitely going to have to run that on the emulator because I don't have a Sega Master System anymore. It's long gone, and give that a go. And then someone suggested Lord of the Sword. And if I remember this game correctly, it's one of the few Sega Master System games where I actually managed to finish it. I got to the very end of it twice, really sore fingers on the D-pads with the A and B button. The first time I finished the game without cheating. I was so proud of myself. No cheats needed there, like Double Dragon and the 15 spin kicks to get you unlimited lives at the start of the last level. Nothing like that. The second time I got through, and I think it's like a mantis-type creature, and he's got his pincers, and yeah, he got me just as I was about to hit the killing blow. So I was disappointed the second time I didn't finish it twice, but at least I finished that. So yeah, whoever it was that said Lord of the Sword, thank you so much for that response. But please, keep them coming. Like and subscribe because we're going to get into a lot of role-playing game memories. And today, off the back of that, I was actually going to get into or do a video about the quirkiest role-playing game on PC or cartridge, just in video game world in general, you've ever played. And I mean quirkiness in however you want to view that word. It could have been in character creations. It could have been a character class that you'd not normally see outside of, Dungeons and Dragons or anything else. Not your wizards and your rogues and your warriors and your warrior wizards and your thieves and clerics and paladins and all those kinds of things. Maybe it was, fairy catcher or something like that. Maybe it was just the setting that made it really quirky. It was somewhere completely different, a dreamscape perhaps. Maybe it was something that happened in the game. It could be a quirky villain that made it the quirkiest game ever. I thought, yeah, this isn't a bad idea in something to do a YouTube video on and get discussion about. The only problem is the quirkiest game I've ever played, I'm really struggling to remember the title of it. And that's what I'm hoping to do today. I'm hoping that I can feed you enough information and get you to hopefully solve this, and then it can just remain on YouTube for the rest of existence so that anyone else who's struggling to name this game can come back and go, excellent, Al didn't know, but someone else in the comments did. So let's see if we can do this. And the last time I did this about a role-playing game was actually a tabletop battle system, and it took a few days, but someone finally went, I think that's Robo Gear. I Googled it, it certainly was, and it just threw me back to so many amazing memories. It was a very, very cheap game. Should have kept it, moved too many times and thrown out too much good stuff. That's the problem. You just hoard too much and then you have to move, and to cut costs, you just flog off a lot of stuff, and I did. But that game was Robo Gear. So success on that video. Let's see if we can have success on this one. Here's the little that I know. about this mysterious game. And if you know anything about this or you want to hazard a guess, please, guesses are more than welcome. Chuck them down below in a comment. I'd really appreciate that. Okay, first thing that I'm working with is a very, very vague timeline. And I'm going to apologize early on this one. A lot of this stuff is very vague because I reckon this was a decade ago, if not even longer, that I played this on PC. It was a PC game. I don't think it was ported anywhere. And it was a game that I stumbled across being a member and reading up at the forums of somethingawful.com. I was there for the amazing front page and the comedy content. I joined the forums eventually, and it was awesome because it did expose me to a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff, as forums do. But someone came across this really, really quirky game, put up a lot of pictures, not really a let's play, but enough to just go, do you know anything about this? A lot of people got into it. A lot of people downloaded it like I did. A lot of people found out how insanely quirky it was. Of course, I can't find anything about that thread anymore. I'm typing various things into Google to see if it can come up, site pointing at forums.somethingawful.com. Unfortunately, nothing's popping up. Hence me deciding, well, I reckon the YouTube community can solve this one for me. So we're talking at least 10 years ago, and I reckon that's the last time I played it because I haven't played it here, been here for close to 5 years. Didn't play it up on the Gold Coast, was there for 4 years, which means that's 9 years. I reckon it was a couple of years before we moved to the Gold Coast, so at least a decade old. Let's work from 2015 on back. The second thing I remember, and again, apologies for being vague on this, but I swear I read it in the forums, or maybe it was even in the opening article about this game. I believe this is a Korean role-playing game. Okay, the problem is, doing some research for this, Korea's made a lot of role-playing games, and they've done a lot of MMORPGs. It's definitely not that, but they've made a lot of role-playing games in their time, so that does not make this any easier. Hopefully the next few details can really just bring it home, or at least narrow things down, because there's a lot of Korean games out there, some good, some bad, lots of online kind of stuff, but this was not an online game, okay? I swear it's Korean. Having said that, someone's going to come along and go, no, it wasn't. It's actually this game, and it was from here. I am really looking forward to be stood corrected just if I can play this quirky game again and possibly do a follow-up YouTube on, your quirkiest game. Okay, what else do I remember? It was, if I recall, top-down, looking at your little character, little sprite character. It definitely wasn't your animated characters by any regards. It looked like almost like a dungeon crawler, if you will, but it certainly wasn't just set in dungeons. I believe it did have dungeons, but you could go outside, kind of like, Ultima, and you could go through forests, and you could go through graveyards and towns and all of those kinds of things, and fight beasts and bits and pieces. So you could certainly get out and about. It wasn't, like a roguelite or anything like that, where you were just walking through levels upon levels upon levels of dungeons and nothing else. No, there was plenty more going up on the top of the world. And speaking of the top of the world, you could dig into the surrounding landscape in caves, and you could make yourself an area. So you could, if I'm remembering correctly, hack at the walls and you could extend out your rooms. Okay, so I think most people started off in a cave and you could find furniture for it. So I found a bed for my cave, and I think I found some bits and pieces. So the little square sprites, there's the bed, there's the cupboard, all of those kinds of things. So you could start to put those in there. It was dangerous to go out in the rain. Now this was really, really quirky because normally in a role-playing game, if there's rain, you don't care. Maybe it'll bring out a particular wet type of enemy. Maybe, it'll have lightning effects and those kinds of things. This rain, you'd want to take cover from, kind of like the radioactive clouds in Fallout, because it would actually mutate you. You could get mutations for your character. I can't remember anything specific, but I just remember you stayed out of the rain whenever you could. You took cover when you could, because you could end up with mutations, both good or bad. It might slow you down, it might give you extra attacks, those kinds of things. But the rain was pretty dangerous, so you stayed out of the rain. Character creations in this vague game, I think there were quite a few different options, like more than 10. Maybe Death Knight was one of them, but it was one of those things where you could go, oh, okay, I'm actually spoiled for choice, not just your stock standard 3 or 4 or even 5 options here. Which one am I going to choose for this playthrough? So there was definitely that. Guns were a weapon in this unknown role-playing game as well, which was really strange. So we're talking pistols and rifles. It wasn't set in the future. It's just they were an option. So whoever built this game just went, look, I like the swords and I like the axes and I like the maces and there was probably bows as well and armor pieces. Let's just throw in guns. Why not? What else did we have in there? Yeah, so guns are a big part of it. The other part about it, and this never happened to me, but it did happen to someone on the forums, and I just went, that's hilarious. There was a blade there called Ragnarok. And apparently, if you used Ragnarok in battle, whether it happened instantly or it was just one of those random occurrence things, the screen would fill up with flying dragons. And something about the doom of Ragnarok would appear on screen, and that was it. The game would be over. So I don't know what the hell that was about or why that was even a thing, but it was enough for me to read that and go, whoa, I want to give that a go. And for whatever reason, I never gave that a go. Maybe that's enough for you to just go, oh, okay, I know what it is now purely on that Ragnarok weapon. That's this game. If it is, if you think you know what it is, please let me know in a comment below. I'm really keen to get to the bottom of this, just to play it again, just to see A, how quirky it was, B, if it's replayable at all, or C, how bad it is. So yeah, they're very, very basic details. It is a role-playing game. It's a very quirky one. Mutating rain, guns in there, decent character build options, which was really cool. Set mostly outside in towns. There were dungeons and you could certainly buy things. And then Ragnarok, the dragon sword. So that's what I know, and here's what it's not. Now, as I said earlier, it is definitely not an MMORPG. Well, not that I remember anyway. It's not an online one, because I certainly downloaded this. I didn't download the client, I actually downloaded the game. So I don't remember anyone else randomly popping in the game or it needing an internet connection or those kinds of things. So we can rule out any MMORPG. This was just a traditional, quirky, albeit very strange role-playing game on PC. Therefore, it's not Ragnarok Online. First thing that I checked, I went, oh, Ragnarok. Search for that. There's plenty of games called Ragnarok. It doesn't seem to be any of those, unless I'm looking at a completely different one. That means it's also not Nexus Kingdom of the Winds, and it's not any of those games. Like I said, it is at least a decade old. So if you're thinking, oh yeah, I recently played this, there's a fair chance you didn't recently play this game. Unless you've got it saved up somewhere and you've just got to the collection in one lazy night. Friday, it's raining, and you're just like, oh, I feel like some really obscure RPG kind of gear. You put it on. And that's all I've got at this stage. Please let me know in a comment below if you think you may know this. I'm really hoping to solve this mystery, because if I do, then that's going to be my entry in the quirkiest role-playing game ever. And look, feel free to share your quirky game experiences. Like I said, it could be anything from character creation to the path it takes to the whole story just turning on its head. If you've got any quirky tales, please let me know below. But I'm looking forward to asking you that very question. What is the quirkiest role-playing game you've ever played? Because they can't all be the same. There's a lot of clones, and especially a lot of MMO clones out there. But yeah, I'm looking for this obscure game, and then I'm going to be asking later on about what is the one that really stood out in your mind as, wow, this is different. Not necessarily good, but wow, is this different? In the meantime, can you solve my mystery? And thanks in advance if you can.